Reborn in 1982, the first thing I did when I opened my eyes was sharpen my knife. In my past life, I was bitten by a bear while guarding the autumn crops, leaving me lame for the rest of my days. That bear will show up again tonight. If a gun can't kill it, I'll stab it to death with my knife. The fork in fate lies tonight. Whether I stay a cripple or become the king of the mountains hinges on this one moment. I sprang up from the calm, gasping for air, a numbness spreading at the back of my head. Starting up from a dying sleep, I was reborn. Before me were pine beam rafters and yellow mud walls pasted with faded newspapers. The West Wing was filled with the familiar smell of the earth and calm. July 28, 1982, the 8th day of the 6th lunar month. I stared blankly at the calendar hanging on the wall, my head buzzing. Memories of my past life flashed like a movie. The accident that left me lame, and how I rejected the girl I loved most. I hid alone in the deep mountains, dug a cellar dwelling, and lived there for decades. My parents got old without me being able to take care of them, and my eldest and third brothers put off their work and business just to come see me. All because of this stubborn ass of mine. The whole family worried and labored. Thinking of this, I rubbed my face hard. Living this life again, I'm going to fill in every one of those regrets one by one. From the yard came the sound of laundry being washed. I pulled on my pants and vest, slipped into my cloth shoes, and walked to the door. My mom, Wangoelon, was squatting on the ground scrubbing clothes. She was just over 40, but crow's feet had already appeared at the corners of her eyes, and her face had lost its luster from years of hard labor. Those big eyes that had once charmed my dad were now slightly yellowed. Just watching my mom scrubbing the clothes back and forth, my eyes somehow got wet. In my last life, when I was lying in a mountain ditch unable to move for 2 days, my mind kept churning, thinking only of my family. I thought of the corn cakes and stewed eggplant my mom made, and the ice crystals on my dad's cotton jacket when he came back from the forest farm in winter. My mom looked up and saw me, startled. "What's wrong, second? Is mom's washing too loud?" I quickly shook my head. "No, Mom, I slept well." "Then why are your eyes so red? Looks like you've been crying." "It's nothing. I've been guarding the crops at night these days. Lots of mosquitoes, haven't slept well." I lied. "By the way, where did this gun come from?" I pointed at the Type 38 rifle standing by the door. "Uncle Lee brought it over. He said someone saw a black bear last night, and our old hunting gun might not be enough to scare it off." My mom said, pointing at the old hunting rifle hanging on the east wing's inner wall. "That broken old gun was bought last year for 50 yuan from another village when I joined the militia. The barrel was heavily worn, and accuracy was poor. Firing one shot required reloading, and it was terribly slow in my hands. I picked up the Type 38, pulled the bolt, shouldered it, and aimed around the yard. As I held the gun, a familiar sensation flooded back. This rifle had been with me in my past life, until it was collected during the civilian firearm confiscation later on. I had used it to hunt roe deer and sick a deer. That feeling of being one with the gun was already etched into my bones. My mother muttered nearby. "Uncle Lee said he saw a dark figure on the hillside south of Nanda D, and they scared it off with gunfire." My heart skipped a beat. The hillside south of Nanda D. A black bear. Scenes from my past life instantly flooded back. It was this bear that changed my entire destiny. That night, while guarding the autumn harvest, Zhang Erbao, who swapped shifts with me, saw the bear stripping wild jujubes from the trees on the hillside at the edge of the field. This kid was blinded by greed, wanting to shoot the bear for money. A bear gall could sell for 300 or 400 yuan at the supply and marketing cooperative. If it turned out to be a copper gall, 500 or 600 wouldn't even be the limit. The bear meat and paws were perfect for building up autumn fat. A 300 gene bear could yield about 200 gene of meat. Selling at 40 cents per gene on the black market would be 80 yuan. Plus the bear hide, and even the bear's kneecap could be used to soak in liquor. Zhang Erbao calculated. Several dozen 10 yuan notes, enough for a formal forest farm worker's annual salary. He crept over quietly, fired from about 100 meters away. But he didn't hit a vital spot, only the bear's butt. The bear let out a roar and went berserk, standing upright on its hind legs. It chased after Zhang Erbao like a mad creature. Zhang Erbao was scared out of his wits, running and yelling, Feng Air, help me." I rushed out of the shed with my gun and saw a big black bear charging out of the bushes by the roadside. One swipe sent Zhang Erbao tumbling into the roadside ditch. I panicked and fired several shots. I hit it, but didn't kill it. The beast charged through the gunfire straight at me. It grabbed the barrel of my gun, yanked me down, and sat on top of me. Then it lowered its head and bit down on my right calf. There was a crack, and my leg broke in 3 places. By the time they got me to the town hospital, The doctor told me that leg was finished. I'd be a cripple for the rest of my life. Zhang Erbao's family paid me the betrothal money they'd saved for his older brother's wedding. The marriage fell through. I never married the girl I loved. I ended up alone in the mountains, a lonely old man. My hand instinctively tightened on the gun. My mother kept going on. Son, let me tell you, we're not hard up for a few dollars. Even if you see a black bear, don't provoke it. Just fire a few shots into the air and scare it off. If anything happens to you, what will Mom do? I kept my head down so she wouldn't see my eyes redden again. All right, I understand, Mom. In my previous life, Mom gave me the same warning. I didn't listen then. In this life, I'll take care of that bear myself and flatten that obstacle. I picked up my gun and went back to the eastern wing room, hanging it on the wall. After a moment's thought, I turned and headed to the western storage shed. Rummaging through a basket in the corner, I pulled out a thick-backed pointed knife. This knife is called a qin knife, used for slaughtering pigs in the villages of northeast China. Its blade is slender and long, shaped like a short sword, with a thick spine on one side and a cutting edge on the other. The end of the knife is an iron cylinder, which can be held to use as a chopper or fitted with a long wooden pole to become a spear. During those years of hunting in my previous life, this knife was my most trusted tool. I took the qin knife to the main house kitchen, scooped a bowl of water, and sat down before the whetstone at the entrance of the western wing room. He held the cylinder in his left hand and the back of the knife in his right, blade facing forward, and began to sharpen it stroke by stroke, occasionally flicking water onto the stone. The scraping sound of the blade rang out, and sparks glinted in the afternoon sunlight. Looking at his own young, strong hands, with faint blue veins bulging on the backs, thick knuckles, and taut skin, the hands of his past life, covered in calluses and cracks with protruding joints, were gone. Youth was fucking great. As he was really getting into the sharpening, his mother's voice came from behind. "Air, what are you sharpening that knife for?" He turned his head and saw her coming back from the backyard with a vegetable basket. He grinned. "I'm carrying it for self-defense. Since we saw that black bear, an extra layer of protection will let you rest easy." His mother was taken aback, staring at him for a long moment. "Why are you in such a good mood today, kid? And so talkative? Are you hiding something?" His heart tightened. He had forgotten. At this time in his past life, he was a quiet lump who couldn't squeeze out a single word if his life depended on it. "I've been acting like a different person these past few days, so of course the old lady would be suspicious. But I wasn't panicked." I smiled and replied, "I just slept well, so I'm full of energy." My mother shook her head, said nothing more, and headed into the kitchen with her grocery basket. I turned the knife over and kept sharpening it, running through the bear's details again in my mind. A 300 gene black bear, just when it's fattening up for winter, thick-skinned and tough. The Type 38 rifle has strong penetration, but its stopping power is mediocre. If you don't hit a vital spot, it can still charge at you through the gunfire. I learned that lesson the hard way in my past life. So this time, relying solely on a gun won't cut it. I need a backup plan. Once this knife is sharp, I'll mount it on a wooden pole to use as a spear. If I don't drop it with the first shot, I'll have something for close-quarters combat. The sun was slowly sinking, and a cool breeze picked up in the yard. From the kitchen drifted the aroma of my mother's braised eggplant, with corn cakes sizzling and steaming against the iron pot. My father and eldest brother get off work at 4 and take the Forest Farm commuter train, so they'll be home by 5:30. The eldest sister-in-law took our 4-year-old nephew back to her parents' home, so tonight it's just the 4 of us at home. I carried the sharpened knife to the yard, examining the blade under the setting sun. The thin blade gleamed with a blue sheen, sharp enough to cut a strand of hair. Tonight at Nandati, between that bear and me, only one of us will walk out standing. But this time, it definitely won't be me falling. I put the knife away and checked the gun and ammunition again. In the cloth bag that Uncle Lee had given me, there were 40 or 50 bullets, heavy and solid. The gun was polished to a glossy shine. The bolt pulled smoothly, the sight was intact. The fate of that old cripple from my previous life would be changed tonight. I took a deep breath and leaned the gun against the doorframe. My mother poked her head out of the kitchen. "Air, go pick 2 cucumbers from the backyard to make a cold dish. Your dad and brother will be back soon." "Got it," I replied. I acknowledged. Such an ordinary day. I had dreamed of it countless times during the long, lonely years of my previous life. Now, it was finally back in my hands. The salty aroma of homemade sauce wafted from the kitchen. The corn leaves in the backyard vegetable garden rustled in the wind, and in the distance the faint whistle of the small train from Dakingshan Forest Farm could be heard. After a little while, my dad would be pushing open the courtyard gate with a new pack of Dakiamin cigarettes in his pocket and my brother carrying the planks he brought back from the forest farm. But the impression in the family's minds would have to be built up slowly. Thinking of this, Feng Guolong quickly backtracked. Of course I'm happy. Someone's giving me a gun, right? These words left Wang Guilin confused, so she asked, "What are you so happy about Uncle Li giving you a gun?" Feng Guolong sharpened the knife as he said to Wang Guilin, "Mom, you know this gun, right?" "Of course you do. Didn't your dad and Uncle Li capture it from the little Japs back in the day? It's hanging on the Kong cabinet in Uncle Li's room, right? I heard from your dad that your grandpa killed that Jap and Uncle Li took it by force," Wang Guilin replied, even more confused. "Xiong means to insist on getting something. Right, Mom? Think about it. Grandpa Li usually scolds Uncle Li for no reason. Would Uncle Li really go out of his way to ask Grandpa Li for the gun and get scolded again? Someone must have asked me, Uncle Li, to deliver it, right?" Feng Guolong hinted. Hearing this, Wang Guilin slapped her thigh. "Oh, that must be my daughter. She's in Uncle Li's room. Besides, Uncle Li is so busy. How could he have thought of that? My daughter must have heard about the black bear and asked Uncle Li to make the trip." The daughter Wang Guilin mentioned here was Li Weigua's youngest daughter, Li Mingxin. The two families had been neighbors for generations, with their ancestors all living in the same village. Especially the previous generation, the current Li family patriarch, Li Heping, and Feng Guolong's late grandfather, Feng Dashan, had even fought the Japanese together and shared a life-or-death bond. And each of the two elders had only one child, Feng Jianya and Li Weigua, respectively. By the next generation, it was Feng Guolong's generation. The Li family had two sons and one daughter. The eldest, Li Mingda, the second, Li Mingyi, and the third, Li Mingxin. Li Mingxin was born when Li Weigua was over 30, and she had just turned 20 this year, by traditional reckoning. She was also a child born to them late in life, and since her second brother, Li Mingyi, was 9 years older than her, she was truly the apple of the Li family's eye. 2 years ago, a matchmaker came to propose a marriage. Old Master Li made it clear at that time. His granddaughter would not marry out. Since both grandsons had moved to the city, they needed a son-in-law to marry into the family, and it would have to wait a few years, as the child was still young. But as the new year passed, Li Mingxin was about to turn 21, and more than one family was eager for her hand. In his younger days, Old Master Li worked as a steward for a wealthy family in Harbin. Traveling far and wide, he had amassed quite a fortune. Later, when the Japanese invaders came, he used his business as a cover to liaise with the anti-Japanese United Army. He fought against the Japanese alongside bandits from all over, and after the founding of the nation, he helped maintain local order, persuading many bandits to come down from the mountains and sustaining many connections. It wasn't until the eve of the 10 years of turmoil that he got word and brought his family back to the village. After the turmoil ended, Li Mingxin's eldest brother used his connections to become a police officer in Harbin. Her second brother, Li Mingyi, also passed the college entrance exam in the 3rd year after its reinstatement and was now studying in the capital. With such a family background, who in the village wouldn't be envious? Besides, Li Mingxin herself was a well-known beauty in the surrounding areas, skilled in everything at home, and she even took care of the old man perfectly. Most importantly, she was good-looking, the village belle. Thinking of this, Wang Guilin instantly transformed into the village gossip, basket on her arm, crouching down as she scurried over to Feng Guolong's side. She glanced furtively outside the yard, and seeing no one passing by, she whispered, "Son, is there something going on between you and your sister? Let me tell you, it would be a shame if your sister married someone else. You two are such a perfect match. Besides, she's 3 years older. A woman 3 years older, a gold brick to hold, right? And you've grown up together." Hearing this, Feng Guolong thought back to their childhood. They had practically been inseparable. They had even shared a bed, since back then the adults were busy and the older kids looked after the younger ones. At this, Feng Guolong couldn't help but tease. "What? Mom, are you interested in Sister Mingxin? Want her to be your daughter-in-law?" Wang Guilin was instantly furious upon hearing this. She slapped Feng Guolong on the back of the head and snapped, "What's the use of me having ideas if you're not ambitious enough? If you had the skills, your Uncle Li would never even mention being a live-in son-in-law. We could just bring him over to live with us." Feng Guolong gave a faint smile, thinking to himself, just wait and see, and then fell silent, continuing with his work. Seeing him not respond, Wang Guilin grew even more agitated. What did this mean? She pressed on. What exactly do you mean? Tell your mother the truth. Do you like your sister Mingxin or not? As long as you nod, I'll swallow my pride and go ask her right now." Seeing Wang Guilin getting worked up, Feng Guilong quickly said, "Mom, you know Sister Mingxin too. She's a strong-willed person. This matter requires her consent. Nothing anyone else says will matter." After a pause, Feng Guilong added, "Let's just let things take their natural course for now." Hearing this, Wang Guilin suddenly understood. "So you've taken a fancy to a girl." Wang Guilin's heart bloomed with joy. She raised her hand and gave Feng Guilong a not-too-hard punch on the back, curling her lips and saying, "I knew you were quiet, but full of tricks. You need to step it up? Once Sister Mingxin agrees, we'll go hire a matchmaker." Feng Guilong smiled without speaking and continued sharpening the knife. Wang Guilin went back into the house and first washed and peeled the eggplants she had picked from the backyard garden. She broke them into small pieces, then took a few potatoes from the basket by the earthen stove, peeled and washed them, cut them into chunks with a cleaver, and set them aside. Feeling that there was still plenty of time, she started sorting through the vegetables in the basket meant for dipping in sauce. In the culinary culture of Northeast China, vegetables for dipping in sauce are an indispensable part. During this season, these vegetables are at their most abundant. Pak choy, cilantro, stinky greens, large and small scallions, small radishes, cucumbers, and more. Every household stocks up on them. Especially when eating potato and eggplant stew, dipping vegetables are a must. Feng Guilong had been sharpening for over an hour. He picked up the knife and tested the edge with his thumb pad. Feeling it was sharp enough, he went back into the west storage room. He walked to the innermost corner, where several smooth wooden poles were placed, each about the thickness of an egg and roughly 1.5 meters long. These were poles his eldest brother had asked someone at the lumberyard to make for farming tools like shovels and two-pronged hoes. After testing each one, he picked the heaviest. Somehow, Feng Guilong felt he had much more strength now. Maybe it was because he was young. As the old saying goes, a 3-year-old bullock and an 18-year-old man are both at their peak. And he was about to turn 18. He used the cleaver knife to trim the head of the pole until it could barely fit into the socket. After slipping the socket onto the cleaver's cylindrical tang, he gripped the wooden pole and slammed it hard against the ground. After over 20 hard slams, he watched the pole's head slowly wedge into the cleaver's cylinder. The edge of the cylinder had already scraped off quite a few wood shavings, so Feng Guilong used a sickle to roughly trim them. Then, with the sickle, he cut shallow grooves into the middle and tail end of the pole for a non-slip grip. Finally, he found a nail and drove it through the hole at the end of the cleaver's cylinder, fixing it into the wooden pole. At this point, a javelin converted from an invasion knife was completed. Feeling that it was about 3:30 now, Feng Guilong had nothing to do for the moment and began to plan for the night's autumn crop guarding. He had to think carefully. After all, that was the only bear he had hunted in his previous life, and also the only black bear he would have to kill twice in 2 lifetimes. Then Feng Guilong walked into the eastern wing room. Sitting on the heated brick bed, calm, he began to calculate the matter of hunting the bear at night. In the kitchen of the main house, Wang Guilin had already started bustling. She first lit the earthen stove, waiting until the clean pot slightly emitted white smoke. She scooped half a ladle of soybean oil from the oil jar with the cooking ladle, flicked her wrist, and splashed the oil onto the bottom of the pot. At that time, soybean oil was a rare commodity, unlike later when it became widespread with genetically modified versions. Soybean oil now required ration tickets. Only the Feng family was so willing to use it. 2 people in the Feng family worked at the forestry station, and the remaining 4, except the children, could earn work points in the production team. They could finally afford soybean oil for every meal. Actually, Wang Guilin was being a bit generous today. Usually she only used the bottom of a spoonful, but today mother and daughter were both happy. As the soybean oil hit the pan, immediately a cloud of oil smoke rose, and the aroma of cold-pressed soybean oil spread instantly. Wang Guilin added the prepared chopped green onions and garlic cloves into the pan, and with another sizzle, the aroma in the kitchen became even richer. She picked up the sauce bowl from the stove, scooped out nearly a full spoonful of soybean paste. Tap, tap, tap on the bottom of the pot, slowly stir-frying the paste until cooked and fragrant. Then she quickly added the prepared eggplants and potatoes into the pot, stirred them a few times, picked up the gourd ladle for water, and added water until it covered the potatoes and eggplants. She pulled over the basin with the fermented cornmeal, grabbed a handful with one hand, and with both hands alternating, shaped it into an oval. Seizing the chance, she slapped it against the side of the pot with a loud smack. One after another, until the flour in the basin was gone. Then he covered the pot and added firewood to the stove. In the Northeast at this time, a housewife's cooking skill was judged by how well she made those corn cakes. It looked simple, but it was packed with know-how. One small mistake, and it wouldn't taste good. Too little water, and the cakes came out hard. Too much, and they wouldn't stick to the pot, sliding right down into the water. That's why in some places they call it pot slitter. The time and temperature for proofing the dough also had tricks. Too much, and it turned sour. Too little, and it wouldn't be fluffy, ruining the texture. So this simple corn cake was actually quite a test. At 4:30, a rustling came from the fence at the yard gate, startling Feng Guolong out of his thoughts. Then his eldest brother Feng Guoxing's voice rang out. "Ma, we're off work." At the yard gate, a gaunt figure walked in first, over 40 years old, with horizontal wrinkles on his forehead and a knife-like face, a thin mustache, and squinting eyes. A cigarette dangled from his mouth. It was Feng Guolong's father, Feng Jianya. Behind him followed a sturdy young man, his eldest brother Feng Guoxing. Seeing his elder brother and father return, Feng Guolong also got off the Kong and walked out of the room toward the main house. The three met at the main house's doorway, and Feng Guolong called out, "Dad." Feng Jianya grunted in acknowledgement, raised his hand, and pinched the cigarette, but between his thumb and index finger, taking 2 quick drags before stepping into the house first. He tossed the butt into the stove pit and headed toward the eastern room. Wang Guilin was putting away the bowls and chopsticks. Seeing the 3 men walk in, she turned and said, "All 3 of you, get up on the Kong. I'll go dish up the food." The 3 men took off their shoes and climbed onto the Kong, sitting around the table. Feng Jianya sat in the center with his back to the window. Eldest brother Feng Guoxing leaned against the east wall, and Feng Guolong sat opposite his elder brother. On the table were 4 sets of bowls and chopsticks, along with a large plate woven from poplar twigs. The plate was piled high with various kinds of pickled vegetables. Soon, Wang Guilin walked in carrying a large iron pan with flared edges, painted with green and red twin carp, filled with more than a dozen steaming hot cornbreads. The back of the pancake was golden and shiny, with a reddish-brown crust underneath, giving off an enticing aroma. Feng Guolong quickly stood up, took the plate, and placed it on the table. A few minutes later, Wang Guilin came in carrying a large ceramic bowl filled with potatoes and eggplant, along with a small bowl of steamed chili sauce. A spoon rested on the large bowl, as the potatoes and eggplant had already been mushed up, making them impossible to pick up with chopsticks. Wang Guilin sat sideways on the edge of the heated brick bed beside Feng Guolong and said to the 3 men, "Eat up." Feng Guolong quickly grabbed 2 pancakes, handing one to his father first. Then he placed the other in his own bowl and picked out a few of his father's favorite side dishes from the small plate, setting them beside his father's bowl. Only then did he pick up a green onion, folded it a few times, dipped it in the sauce, took a bite of the pancake first, and then put the green onion into his mouth to chew together. In that instant, this mouthful he had dreamed of for half a lifetime filled Feng Guolong with a flood of emotions. Now wasn't the time to show it, so she quietly lowered her head and ate. They say potatoes stewed with eggplant can stuff an old man to death. Eggplant stewed with potatoes, the more you eat, the more you want. Feng Guolong, who planned to eat until 80% full, couldn't stop and ended up at 110%. The Feng family usually talked little during meals, so dinner was over in about 20 minutes. That was because his mother was waiting for Feng Guolong. His father and eldest brother were already cooling off in the shade under the west wing, each on a stool. Feng Guolong helped his mother clear the table, then picked up a stool and headed out. Just as he reached the door, he heard his eldest brother say to his father, "Dad, a half-grown boy can eat a grown man out of house and home." Guolong really put it away today. He ate 4 big cornbread cakes. Feng Jianya shot Feng Guoxing a sideways glance. "You'd like to eat that much, but you can't even get it down." Feng Jianya retorted. Feng Guoxing didn't mind. After all, he had the lowest status in the family. As his father said of the 3 brothers, the eldest is steady, the second is quiet, and the third talks so sweet he'll make your head spin. The third child, Feng Guoqing, is the youngest in the family. With that glib tongue of his, he talks so sweetly, as if coated in honey. In modern terms, he's a real suck-up. The second child was always a quiet log, not one for talking, keeping everything bottled up inside. If I didn't show him some care, wouldn't the 2 of you just bully him to death? Actually, the reason Feng Jianya favored his second son, Feng Guolong, the most was because he felt that in both personality and conduct, Feng Guolong resembled his own father, Feng Dashan, the closest. And Feng Dashan had always been his idol and role model. He took out a pack of golden gourd cigarettes from his pocket, lit one for his father, then lit one for himself. Feng Guolong walked over to his eldest brother, set down a stool, and said to him, "Big brother, When you go to work tomorrow, if you have time, could you buy me some valve stems from town? I want to make a slingshot. Even better if you can get some medical tourniquets. Feng Guoxing was taken aback and asked back, what do you need that for? I want to go up the mountain and hunt some hares, said Feng Guolong. Oh, all right then. Tomorrow I'll first go to the town hospital to see if I can find an acquaintance. A tourniquet would be handy, Feng Guoxing said. After thinking a bit, he asked Feng Guolong, how many tourniquets do you need? If not, how many valve cores would work? Feng Guolong thought for a moment and said, if there are tourniquets, just get me 4. If not, 8 valve cores. All right, I'll try my best to get them for you tomorrow. Feng Guoxing didn't ask further but agreed directly, because in his view, it was perfectly normal for country kids to play with slingshots. As for the gray dog, that thing wasn't something just anyone could hunt. If the second brother could bag one, it would be a real treat. At this time, Feng Guoxing didn't know that starting today, their family would never run out of meat. After sitting for a while, feeling the time was about right, having greeted his father and elder brother, Feng Guolong went back inside, loaded the Type 38 rifle with bullets, slung it over his shoulder, and wrapped the tip of the spear in an old cloth. He filled the water gourd to the brim, tied the rope loop to the spear, then carried the spear out of the house toward the courtyard gate. The 2 people cooling off in the yard were both startled at the sight of Feng Guolong in this outfit. Father stood up and asked, where are you going? His voice was urgent and a bit loud. Feng Guolong felt a warmth in his heart, but did not stop walking. He had something more important to do than explain the whole story to his father. He was going to see the woman he had been longing for decades. Without looking back, he said, don't worry, it's nothing. Ask my mother, she knows. Go out of the yard and walk east for over 100 meters, passing 3 yards. Arriving outside the fence of the 4th yard, the layout of this yard was roughly the same as the Feng family's, except that the main house had a tiled roof, and the side rooms on both sides were also 2 rooms each. Only there was an extra hand-pumped well outside the fence. This well was dug back when the forest farm was drilling wells, considering that most of the male labor force in the 4 villages, Hanshan, Xianangu, Shiling, and Defying, worked at the forest farm. A hand-pumped well was dug for each village. The Li family was right in the center of the village, so the well was placed here. Of course, let's not mention the fact that Li Weiguo was the village head and that the forest farm director, Lu Jinling, was Li Weiguo's brother-in-law. Feng Guolong stopped and called out loudly to the old man sitting on a long bench in the courtyard, who looked a bit portly with white hair and beard, smoking a pipe. Grandpa Li, finished eating? Ah, finished. Are you going to the southern fields, or Xiao? Want to come in and sit for a while? The old man, Li Heping, looked to be about 70 or 80 years old. Though his beard and hair were white, his spirits were excellent and his voice was very loud. Can't stay, Grandpa Li. It's almost time. I have to go relieve Zhang or Baezi. Feng Guolong replied, then turned and started walking, counting silently in his mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just as Feng Guolong counted to 5, a clear voice rang out, like a spring in the forest, stirring his heart. Feng Guolong stopped and turned, looking at Li Mingxin, who was walking quickly over. A smooth oval face, sparkling large almond eyes, long eyelashes, a high-nose bridge, thick and straight willow leaf eyebrows that curved slightly at the ends. Her features were bright and beautiful, dignified and spirited. Her skin was so white it seemed to glow, with a faint hint of pink, the kind of skin that rural folk would say never tans. In modern terms, she had porcelain skin, tall and gracefully curvaceous. Her figure was subtly outlined under a loose blue cotton shirt and gray trousers as she moved, making Feng Guolong's eyes glaze over. Unlike other village girls with dry, yellow hair braided into plaits, she had lustrous black hair that reached her waist, styled in a ponytail, a rarity back then. Because Feng Guolong had once said she looked like a fairy with her hair in a ponytail, Li Mingxin hurried over to him, chattering excitedly, her cheeks flushing slightly. Feng Guolong smiled, his eyes glazed as he watched her. He only vaguely caught something about a black bear, not falling asleep, and being careful. Seeing his dazed look, Li Mingxin thought he wasn't taking it seriously and grew more anxious. She scolded in a low voice, Feng Er, pay attention. Don't brush this off. Her shout snapped Feng Guolong back to reality. Looking at the woman he longed for day and night, he smiled and replied, got it. Mingxin Jia. Don't worry. I have the gun you gave me, don't I? Li Mingxin was taken aback and asked, how did you know I had my dad deliver it? I told him not to say I sent it. Because who else but you would care about me this much? Came the teasing reply. Cut it out. Li Mingxin lightly patted Feng Guolong's shoulder and then said, Don't take it lightly. Don't sleep tonight. Stay safe. If a black bear comes, shoot. My dad will come patrol in a bit. Feng Guolong said with a smile. Don't worry, sis. If that black bear dares to come, I'll take it down. I'll make you a coat from its fur as a betrothal gift. He emphasized the word betrothal gift. She feigned being very excited. Upon hearing this, Li Mingxin's cheeks quickly flushed red, spreading to her neck. For a moment, she didn't know what to say, just stared blankly at Feng Guolong. Looking at the stunned Li Mingxin, Feng Guolong then asked, Is that okay, Sister Mingxin? Hearing him ask again, Li Mingxin quickly snapped back to reality. Then immediately, embarrassed and lacking leverage, she scolded fiercely. I really underestimated you, you silent gourd. As she spoke, she reached up and grabbed Feng Guolong's ear. He didn't dodge. He let Li Mingxin tug his ear as she said, How dare you mess with your big sister? Getting bold, huh? After she tugged a few times, Feng Guolong raised his hand and removed Li Mingxin's hand from his ear. He held it like that, refusing to let go. Li Mingxin stared at Feng Guolong holding her hand, dumbfounded, as if frozen in shock. It took a while for Li Mingxin to snap out of it. Then her face flushed even redder, and she quickly turned and ran away. She ran back into the house. Old Li, who had witnessed everything, smiled and muttered, Oh dear, this old man's got no one to take care of me now. As Feng Guolong turned and headed toward the southern fields, he couldn't help but sigh. Just holding a hand made his lower abdomen stir. Youth truly was wonderful. Revenge. This was also a comeback battle. Recalling how in his past life, that black bear had crippled him, leading to his decline. Now that he had a second chance, no matter what, he had to settle the score. Though in his past life he never lacked food or drink, he still lived in depression for decades. Since heaven has given me this opportunity, I will make the most of it no matter what. Although I don't need to manipulate situations as effortlessly as the protagonists in audio novels. At the very least, I want my loved ones to live comfortably, happily, and blissfully. Moreover, the term, turning over a new leaf, holds a special meaning for Feng Guolong. In his previous life, although both he and Li Mingxin knew each other's feelings, it was Li Mingxin who confessed to him. When he was carrying a set of bedding and some tools, heading into the mountains to build a cellar at the back mountain, Li Mingxin caught up and asked him in a hoarse voice whether he was willing to marry her. She was willing to marry him, not caring how much hardship she would endure, nor what others said. As long as he was willing, she would be with him for life. But Feng Guolong refused. He was afraid he couldn't give her a happy life. He was afraid of becoming a burden to her. Such a good girl as she deserved a happy and fulfilling life, not to accompany a cripple like him to slowly taste the bitterness of life and face its hardships. So he chose to escape. In fact, even when he first returned home from the hospital to recuperate, Li Mingxin and her family already knew the outcome. Yet Li Mingxin still insisted on having her family come over and ask, would Feng Guolong be willing to marry her? The one who came was still old Master Li. Amid the hopeful gazes of the entire family and old Master Li, he chose to escape, chose to refuse. On reflection, who had he let down? It was far more than just Li Mingxin alone. No, it was clearly two families. The truth was that because of his escape, both families suffered immense harm. From that rejection of Li Mingxin onward, it marked their last meeting. After that, Li Mingxin fell into gloom, her condition worsening day by day. So much so that her mother quit her job, her eldest brother took a leave of absence, and the whole family accompanied her, using the savings old Master Li had accumulated in his youth to travel all over the country in search of medical treatment. Unfortunately, at that time, the concept of depression had yet to be established in the country, so there was no effective treatment. Within a few years, she passed away prematurely, and the Li family never returned again. His parents, Feng Jianya and Wang Guilon, felt ashamed before the Li family. After the Lis left, they also left and never contacted him again. They didn't even inform him of their passing. He only found out when his elder nephew came to tell him afterward. It was the old couple's insistence. As for him, after learning that his father had passed and both parents were gone, he drank alone for an entire day, forgetting to feed the dog. The dog went out to look for food. When he woke up the next day, he forced his heavy body and groggy head to go look for the dog, but he stumbled and fell. He probably ended up dying in the wilderness, exposed to the elements. It was karma, I suppose. He let out a soft sigh, shook his head, and suppressed those bad memories. Since heaven had shown mercy, he had to seize the opportunity. In his previous life, Li Mingxin had taken the initiative to confess her feelings. This time, it would be his turn. Take the initiative and attack, Transformed from a silent type into a domineering CEO, he knew some of the tropes. The Lee family had suffered in the previous life, so this time he would make it up to them. Worst case, he'd just become a live-in son-in-law. Especially old Master Lee. He had to let him see the new millennium, strive to become a centenarian veteran of the War of Resistance. Better yet, make the news, and include the part for his own grandfather as well. As for my brother-in-law Li Mingda, I'll try to help him get a promotion. We don't have connections, but we have the mountains. Others send wine and cigarettes. We send deer antler and tiger penis. See whose gifts are more effective. Whatever we lack, we'll go into the mountains to get. If that doesn't work, we'll give him credit. In the vast lesser Shingon Mountains, there are several Japanese bases. If we find one for my brother-in-law, won't he shoot up the ranks? Thinking of this, Feng Guolong stiffened. He actually knew the exact location of a Japanese base. That was in his previous life, around 87. A hunter from a nearby village was chasing a lynx. On a rocky mountain, he killed the lynx, and it fell into a stone cave entrance. The hunter sensed something wrong, climbed in through the entrance, and found it was a ventilation shaft leading to a base. The hunter was bold and crawled in through the vent. Who would have thought that as soon as he came out of the vent, he fell into a mass grave where the Japanese had disposed of their own dead. Even a brave man couldn't withstand that ordeal. He was terrified then. Mustering all his strength, he traveled for an afternoon and a night back to the village. After reporting to the village, he fainted. The entire village exploded in uproar, and the news spread far and wide. Before the news could be contained, it had already spread for dozens of miles. In the end, the authorities had no choice but to mobilize the militia, organizing hundreds of people to dig rocks and open the mountain, clearing the cave entrance that the little devils had blown up before the higher-ups took over. As for what was actually inside, only those at the top would know. Thinking of this, Feng Guolong shuddered. Should he go check out that place? After all, he was pretty curious about what was inside. No rush. He'd go once the snow sealed the mountain. Right now, he couldn't get there anyway. It wasn't safe. He had to focus on winning the immediate turnaround battle first before thinking about the future. As for why he hadn't considered failure, there was no chance of it. In the latter half of his past life, he had replayed that scene countless times, imagining the killing scenario over and over. And the two critical issues were marksmanship and mindset. First, marksmanship. After years of practice before the past life's gun ban, with hundreds of rounds of ammunition fed into his rifle, the current Feng Guolong was a world apart from the rookie he had been back then. As for his mindset, in his previous life, when he first faced a black bear head-on, the panic and fear were unavoidable. But now, he had rehearsed the scene of revenge countless times in his mind. When facing the black bear again, it was no longer fear but excitement, the thrill of avenging a great wrong. Lost in thought, he noticed the cornfield furrows were almost at an end. After turning the corner ahead, he would see the farmer's shelter. He quickened his pace. As soon as he turned the corner of the cornfield, he saw Zhang Erbao pacing back and forth in front of the shelter. Feng Guolong thought, if it weren't for the fact that you had some conscience in the previous life, I would have made sure you got swiped by the bear again today. In his previous life, after Zhang Erbao was attacked by the black bear, he gave up the idea of hunting in the mountains and started thinking about collecting mountain products. Zhang Erbao's older brother, Zhang Debao, had been running a black market in town with others. Starting from 1983 when policies loosened, Zhang Erbao began his mountain products business. Within a few years, it flourished, and he opened a mountain goods store in the city. They say poverty breeds cunning, while wealth fosters conscience. This guy is a perfect example. After he got rich, he often came to the mountains to visit me in person. When buying my mountain products, he didn't make a single cent of profit, paying me the full retail price. When Feng Guolong was still about 10 meters away from Zhang Erbao finally spotted him and said excitedly, "Feng Er, you're here." Feng Guolong gave a faint hum in response. Zhang Erbao wasn't upset because Feng Guolong was always a man of few words. He didn't look down on people, he just didn't like to talk. Zhang Erbao tugged at his arm and said urgently, "I heard someone saw a black bear on the opposite slope yesterday. Let's go check it out now. If we find it, we can take it down. That thing is worth a ton of money." Feng Guolong first sat down on a fallen log by the shack, then slowly unwrapped the ragged cloth covering his spear. He drove the spear into the next spot, and the shaft sank into the soft soil of the grass, standing upright. After hearing Zhang Erbao's words, Feng Guolong looked at him like he was an idiot. He didn't say a word. Seeing the strange look in Feng Guolong's eyes, Zhang Erbao felt a bit deflated and asked weakly, "What's wrong?" Feng Guolong asked. Have you ever seen a black bear? Zhang Erbao was taken aback and replied, No. What difference does it make whether I've seen one or not? Feng Guolong found his answer a bit speechless. He had never seen a bear, yet he wanted to hunt one. Isn't that like carrying a lantern to a latrine, asking for death? Feng Guolong patiently explained. A person's first encounter with a black bear triggers uncontrollable fear. Besides, it's almost dark now, and going into the mountains to hunt bears at night. Those things aren't something you find just because you want to. Sometimes you search and can't find any, and then you might stumble upon one casually. What if we run into one head-on in the dark? Do you think our combined 200+ pounds are enough to stuff a black bear to death? When they arrived, Feng Guolong had looked at the opposite hillside several times, but didn't see a single hair of a black bear. He didn't even know where the bear might be hiding, or whether it was even around here. Hearing this, Zhang Erbao suddenly understood that Feng Er had refused. Knowing the deal was off, Zhang Erbao turned to leave. As he looked at the Type 38 rifle slung over Feng Guolong's back and the spear on the ground, he asked subconsciously, If you don't want to hunt the bear, why did you change your gear? Feng Er was even more speechless. He replied with annoyance, I'm scared of dying, all right? If it comes, I'll shoot to scare it away. Zhang Erbao was also speechless. He grudgingly went into the shack, slung his hanging tube and water gourd over his shoulder. He prepared to head home. As he passed Feng Guolong, he reminded, Take care of yourself. I'll head back first. Feng Guolong grunted and waved his hand. Zhang Erbao turned around and dawdled, looking back toward the opposite side as he walked. When Zhang Erbao had walked about 10 meters away, Feng Guolong immediately stood up. He untied the water gourd that was tied to his spear and placed it on the ground. He also took down the Type 38 rifle slung on his back, holding it with both hands, the barrel angled downward. Then, Feng Guolong stood there quietly, watching Zhang Erbao without making a sound. Because he wasn't sure if the black bear would come, or if the events of his previous life would happen in this world. Whether the people now were still the same people. After all, the idea of reliving his life was too incredible to believe. He was also afraid that everything now was just a dream. Perhaps these people were no longer those people. Chaotic thoughts intertwined in his mind. Feng Guolong struggled to calm himself and adjust his state, until Zhang Erbao, who was about to turn the corner, suddenly paused, then crouched down and moved close to the roadside behind the bushes. After waiting for about 10 seconds, he saw Zhang Erbao break open the barrel of his gun and load bullets into the break-action shotgun. He snapped the barrel shut, slung the gun over his shoulder, stepped off the dirt road, and slowly slipped into the bushes beyond. Hongshan Village is located in the middle of the Lesser Xing'an Range, which generally runs northwest to southeast. The terrain is higher in the southeast and lower in the northwest. The slope before them was a large ridge, locally known as Red Pine Ridge. Because there are many red pines growing there, the terrain rises from north to south, intermittently connecting all the way to Flat Top Mountain in the south. Although the soil at the foot of this slope is fertile, it is full of rocks, so the thickets of various sizes are especially lush and tall. As soon as Zhang Erbao entered, Feng Guolong could no longer see him. Feng Guolong immediately pulled the bolt and chambered around. He still didn't raise the gun to his cheek because he wasn't sure of the black bear's location. He didn't dare shoot, afraid the black bear would run away. If it bolted at such a distance, where would he find it? He stood still, waiting, forcing himself to stay calm and keep his emotions in check. Steady, steady, steady. Finally, bang, a gunshot rang out. Feng Guolong stopped hesitating, stopped worrying, and immediately raised his rifle, aiming at the edge of the bushes, waiting for the black bear to burst out. But his finger wasn't on the trigger, afraid he might hit Zhang Erbao, since the bear was behind him. His right index finger rested against the stock, fully focused on the aim. After what felt like an eternity, Zhang Erbao's figure appeared and then disappeared. Feng Guolong snapped to attention, immediately curling his index finger onto the trigger. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. In that moment, Feng Guolong was completely still, like a statue, unaffected by anything around him, until a dark shadow appeared in his sights. Bang! With a gunshot, the bullet entered the black bear's right shoulder and exited near its right collarbone, blooming into a splash of blood. Feng Guolong didn't even glance at the black bear. He pulled the bolt, ejected the spent casing, and loaded a new round, simple and direct movements. At this moment, Zhang Erbao was also startled. No way, I haven't even screamed for help yet. How did he shoot? But he didn't have time to think and desperately ran toward Feng Guolong. Meanwhile, the black bear, driven mad by the searing pain of shattered bones, charged toward the source of the gunshot, determined to tear apart the enemy that had hurt it. Feng Guolong raised the rifle to his face again and saw Zhang Erbai standing between him and the bear, making it impossible to shoot. Without a moment's hesitation, Feng Guolong shouted at Zhang Erbao, "Get into the cornfield." Zhang Erbao, completely at a loss, suddenly heard someone giving orders. He immediately obeyed, diving into the cornfield without hesitation. The instant Zhang Erbao and the black bear separated, Feng Guolong pulled the trigger. Bang! Another spray of blood. With no time to check where the shot landed, Feng Guolong quickly pulled the bolt, ejected the casing, loaded another round, and changed his stance from standing to kneeling. He raised the rifle to his face again, aiming at the black bear. Without a moment to hesitate, the instant the muzzle flash revealed the black bear. Bang! A blossom of blood. Anyone watching would have noticed that the bear's speed had already slowed, and its figure was unsteady. Feng Guolong had no time to look at the bear. He repeated the motion. Pull the bolt, eject the shell, chamber a round, aim, and pull the trigger. Bang! Another blossom of blood. By now, the black bear had ceased moving. It was only inertia that carried it forward. Bang! A third blossom of blood. Without a second thought, Feng Guolong threw the rifle to the ground, yanked out the spear stuck in the earth, and charged toward the black bear, which was lying only 20 meters ahead. When he was close, he gripped the middle of the spear with his left hand, palm outward, and the butt end with his right hand, palm inward. With the power of his waist and legs driving his arms, he thrust the spear into the bear's neck. Thud! One stab. He immediately pulled the spear out and stabbed again. Thud! A second stab. Then he withdrew and stabbed again, one more time, and then another. The entire process was bloody and brutal. And at that moment, Li Weiguo was utterly stunned by the scene before him. He stood still in place. As soon as he turned the corner, he saw Feng Guolong stabbing the black bear again and again, until Feng Guolong had exhausted all his strength and collapsed to the ground. The bear's head also rolled away, its eyes wide open, staring at the sky. It was only then that Li Weiguo and the others reacted, rushing over to Feng Guolong and crouching around him. Li Weiguo quickly helped Feng Guolong lie down in his arms and asked with concern, "Second son, how are you? Where are you hurt?" Feng Guolong gasped for breath and answered intermittently, "Uncle, it's nothing. Not hurt, just tired. Scared me, uncle. Please take the gall quickly." "I don't know how." Feng Guolong really didn't know how. In his past life, he hadn't been the one to extract the bear gall. Although he had learned from others later, he had never actually done it before. And by the time the gall was extracted, it was too late. More than half of it had already been absorbed by the liver. What a waste of a huge iron gall. It sold for only a couple hundred yuan. By then, Li Weiguo had already checked Feng Guolong's body. They found that indeed, as he had said, there were no injuries, just exhaustion. Without any hesitation, he called for 2 people to help, and together they turned the black bear over. Only then did everyone see how miserable the black bear looked. There were several holes all over its body, and its head was missing. Li Weiguo picked up the spear from the ground, used the blade to cut open the bear's abdomen, and then with a hunting knife, he made a few slits under the bear's neck, pulling out the entire set of internal organs. He rummaged through the liver lobes, found the bile duct, and cut out the gallbladder. The whole process only took a few minutes, and he looked quite skilled at it. Holy cow. Nah. In northeast China, a unit of length measured by extending the thumb and index finger horizontally, equal to the distance between the 2 fingertips. What a massive bear gall. It looked to be at least half a gene. The gall shimmered with a dark luster, faintly dotted with golden specks. A top-notch big iron gall. Li Weiguo held the bear gall in both hands and asked Feng Guolong, what should we do with this?" Feng Guolong had recovered by now and stood nearby. After thinking it over, he said, "Take it back. Let my dad handle it. He should know how, right?" "He does. Back in the day, the 2 of us handled plenty of these with your grandpa." Li Weiguo said bluntly. "That makes sense." Feng Guolong thought of his grandfather Feng Dashan, who was nicknamed Blind Feng back in the day. In the Northeast, blind was not a nickname just anyone could earn. His grandfather wasn't just a bandit who fought the Japanese. He was also a famous hunter for 100 miles around. Even his apprentice Wang Chaoyang was now the top marksman in the Dakingshan forest farm area. "All right, then, uncle, I'll trouble you to carry this black bear back. Give these men a bit more meat. And if anyone from the village comes by our house, give them a share too." Feng Guolong looked at the sky, figuring that if they carried it back now, quite a few people would see. Around here, there was a saying that you shouldn't keep all the mountain bounty to yourself. If someone sees you, You don't have to give them the valuable parts, but you should at least give them some meat. In short, it was out of fear of being reported because hunting required a hunter's license. Without one, it was poaching. The forestry department's stance is that if the people don't report it, the officials won't investigate. If someone reports it, they'll catch the offender. Hunting is fine as long as no one sees it, but if they do, they'll take a share and let it slide. Li Weiguan nodded to himself, thinking, this kid is decent and knows how to handle people. At this moment, he had no idea that this decent kid would soon become his son-in-law. As for the militiamen beside him, their hearts were blooming with joy. They were already going to get a share of the meat, and Feng Guolong specifically told them to give them extra. They felt pretty good about it. All of them smiled and said, no trouble at all. What trouble could it be? Yeah, it's just a bit of effort. Small matter, small matter. Feng Er has really made something of himself. Not just capable, but also honorable. Feng Guolong felt a little embarrassed. He had to thank Zhang Erbao for that. The black bear had been led here by him after all. Huh, Zhang Erbao. Where did that kid go? Feng Guolong quickly turned around and shouted, Zhang Erbao. Zhang Erbao. Where did you run off to? Just then, a voice came from the cornfield. Right here, right here. Zhang Erbao emerged from the distant cornfield, hunched over, walking with his legs spread apart and shuffling along, looking quite amusing. He walked up to Feng Guolong and stood not far away. Feng Guolong, thinking he was injured, asked, what's wrong? Are you hurt? Zhang Erbao quickly waved his hand and replied, no, I ran too fast and pulled a muscle in my leg. Then, Zhang Erbao stammered to Feng Guolong, Feng Er, I'm sorry. I was completely stunned at that moment. I really didn't mean to set you up. And thank you for saving my life, truly. I really didn't mean to. I lost my head back then. My brother didn't have enough money for the job, and I was blinded by greed. Seeing that Zhang Erbao's expression didn't seem fake, Feng Guolong didn't say much more. His expression softened as he asked, all right, forget about that. What do you think about this bear? Zhang Erbao was a bit confused and asked, what do you mean? Feng Guolong said, the bear is dead, and the goods are unloaded. What I mean is, how do you want to split it? Feng Guolong said this because he actually intended to give him a share. Why? Because Zhang Erbao's family was indeed struggling. He and his older brother, both grown men. It really drains a family's resources. With no one else working at home, they rely on his mother picking some wild greens and such, which his eldest brother sells on the black market. How much money can that bring in? In the summer of '82, the production team hadn't disbanded yet. Zhang Erbao's family had no workers in the forestry station, and the work points from the production team were practically worthless that year. So, the whole family worked hard all year round, and they might still end up owing the team some money. But based on what Feng Guolong observed in his past life, this family was honest and decent. He just wanted to help them out. When Zhang Erbao heard this, he shook his head and said, what am I thinking? What I'm thinking is, without you today, I'd be bear poop by now. I'm not taking anything from this. I haven't even thanked you for saving my life. I don't want a single hair of this bear. It's all yours. You guys go ahead and handle it. I'm heading home first. With that, Zhang Erbao turned and limped away, dragging his leg, hobbling off. Watching Zhang Erbao leave, Feng Guolong didn't say anything. Let's talk about it after we sell the bear gallbladder. By then, Li Weigua and the others had already roughly processed the dead bear and were about to carry it back. Li Weigua walked over, said to Feng Guolong, can you handle it here tonight? If not, I'll find someone to take your place. Feng Guolong waved his hand. It's fine, uncle, don't worry. I've recovered. Besides, with all this bear blood on the ground, no wild animals will come around tonight. Li Weigua nodded slightly. Indeed, that black bear had been beaten so badly that blood was splattered all along this stretch of the path. Not just tonight, but probably for the next few days, nothing will happen. So he nodded and said, all right, then we'll head back first and deliver the bear to your place. He then led the men back, watching as they lifted the black bear. Originally weighing over 300 jin, after being gutted, it was now only a little over 200 jin. Four men carried it by the four paws. Another militia member held the heart, liver, and lungs, and carried the intestines and stomach. In those times, no meat was thrown away. Even the innards were considered precious. Li Weigua held the bear gall in one hand and carried the bear head in the other. That black bear head, with its bared teeth and unclosed eyes, looked terribly miserable. Looking at the bear head, Feng Guolong had a sudden inspiration, recalling the fierce beast tooth ornaments from his past life that were worth a lot of money. So he said to Li Weigua, uncle, take it to my place and have my brother pull out the bear's four fangs. I want to keep them as souvenirs. Li Weigua nodded, but the other 5 militiamen grew a little unsettled. This Feng heir was too ruthless. First, he gave the bear a brutal end, and now he was practically desecrating the corpse, not even sparing its teeth. To be fair, it wasn't unreasonable for the others to think this way. Back then, such things weren't worth much. But by the 2000s, even a single wolf fang would cost over 1,000 yuan, let alone bear teeth. Besides, this particular bear held a special meaning for Feng Guolong, so he had to keep the fangs and later have them made into a necklace to wear. Watching the group gradually disappear into the distance, Feng Guolong walked into the grass, picked up his rifle, and pulled bullets from his pocket to load the chamber, just in case. Then he got up and gathered some dry branches. He prepared to burn some wormwood and mugwort to smoke away the mosquitoes, as they would become a nuisance after dark. But let's not dwell on Feng Guolong's fire and mosquito repellent. When Li Weigua and the others carried the black bear back to the village, it caused quite a stir. It was just past 6 in the evening, the time when dusk was falling and most households had finished dinner, either enjoying the cool air in their yards. Some people were either standing by the roadside in groups of 3s or pairs, chatting idly. When they saw Li Weigua leading a few men carrying the black bear, they immediately flocked over in a hubbub. They all started asking at once, "Where did you get that black bear? Who hunted it? This big bear must be over 300 pounds. Looking at the noisy crowd, Li Weigua explained a few things. When they heard that Feng heir had hunted it, several families who were close to the Fengs, along with a few others who just wanted to get a share of the bear meat, immediately stepped forward. They swapped out the people carrying the bear, and the now larger group continued toward the Feng house. The rest of the villagers didn't stay idle either, chattering away in lively discussion. Some gossipy women had already started spreading the news. By the time the procession reached the Li family's doorstep, Li Mingxin and old man Li were standing outside the fence. Seeing the boisterous crowd, Li Mingxin quickly stepped forward. "Dad, what's going on? Where did you get that bear?" Li Weigua waved his hand, signaling the group to keep moving. He said to Li Mingxin, "Bao fought. That kid was incredibly fierce, using a spear to chop off the bear's head." Li Mingxin's mind went blank, and she was stunned on the spot. Suddenly tears filled her eyes, and her lips trembling she asked, "Where's Bao?" At this moment, the sky was about to turn dark, with poor light. Li Weigua did not notice his daughter's strange state, and replied, "He's in the fields." Li Mingxin turned and ran, heading out of the village. Only then did Li Weigua sense something wrong. Flustered, he shouted at Li Mingxin's retreating figure, "Slow down, daughter, don't worry, nothing's wrong." But Li Mingxin couldn't hear him now, and without looking back, she ran out of the village. Li Heping, standing outside the fence leaning on his cane, glared at Li Weigua and said, "Damn useless, can't even speak clearly." Then he turned and went into the yard. Li Weigua wordlessly scratched the back of his head and then headed toward Feng's house. When Li Mingxin ran to Feng Guolong's autumn watch shed, she was so exhausted she could barely breathe. Her pretty face was red as if it could bleed, sweat beads sliding down her cheeks, dripping from her smooth chin. Seeing Li Mingxin out of breath, Feng Guolong quickly stepped forward to support her, helping her sit on a fallen log next to the shack, and asked, "What's wrong, sis? Why were you running so fast?" Li Mingxin saw that Feng Guolong was unharmed, and finally breathed a sigh of relief, relaxing. She didn't speak, but focused on regulating her breathing. The two sat on the fallen log, their faces illuminated by the firelight. After a while, Li Mingxin recovered her strength, reached out and grabbed Feng Guolong's ear, this time without holding back, using force, and scolded, "I told you to use the spear on the bear. Why didn't you use the gun? Why did you show off with the spear? Trying to show off your skill?" Feng Guolong winced in pain, quickly grabbed Li Mingxin's hand and begged, it hurts, sis, let go, it's killing me." "Who said I used the spear on the bear? I ran out of bullets in the gun, and the bear was almost dead. I was scared, so I used the spear to finish it off." Upon hearing this, plus seeing that Feng Guolong didn't have a single scratch on him, she realized she'd probably been too hasty and hadn't heard the full story, so she eased up on the pressure but didn't let go of his ear. She asked, "Really? You're not lying to me?" Feeling the pain in his ear disappear, Feng Guolong immediately ingratiated himself. "Of course not. That rumor spreader said I stabbed the bear with a spear? How stupid would that be?" Upon hearing Feng Guolong say that her father had spread a false rumor, Li Mingxin knew the fault was hers for not listening fully, and she felt a bit embarrassed. But then she thought, "I was just worried about you." So she gave his ear another tug. The pain made him wince again. Who are you calling a rumor spreader? My dad said you chopped the bear's head off with a spear. What really happened? Tell me quickly. After the grip on his ear disappeared, Feng Guolong realized he'd been set up by his future father-in-law. He reached out with both hands and gently removed Li Mingxin's hand from his ear. But he didn't let go. Instead, he began to tell the whole story. After hearing what happened, Li Mingxin felt a bit of lingering fear and quickly asked, "Then why didn't you just run? Why did you have to fight that bear?" Rubbing her soft, boneless little hand in his own, Feng Guolong said with a sly grin, "Didn't I say? The betrothal gift has to come from that bear, right?" Li Mingxin only then realized her hand had been held in Feng Guolong's the whole time. For so long, he had taken advantage of her, and worse, he was even rubbing it. The strange sensation filled Li Mingxin with a mix of shame and anger. Because there was a bonfire between them, they were quite conspicuous in its light. At that time, there was still some daylight left, enough for walking, so Wang Guilin hadn't turned on her flashlight. Bathed in the firelight, the two didn't find it dark, but beyond the fire, it was pitch black for them. From their position, Wang Guilin could be said to be hidden in the darkness. Wang Guilin felt quite helpless at the moment. Though both families knew the situation, and the two children were mutually affectionate, she decided it was best to let them calm down and not do anything inappropriate, for the sake of her future daughter-in-law's reputation. He turned back and walked to the corner of the cornfield, shone his flashlight around, then came over. Feng Guolong stood up and shouted toward the direction of the newcomer. "Who is it?" Wang Guilin replied, "It's me, son. Mom came to see you." Hearing Wang Guilin's voice, Feng Guolong breathed a sigh of relief. After all, this kind of thing wouldn't be good if someone saw it. Li Mingxin also stepped out of the shack, her face flushed with shyness, and walked with Feng Guolong to greet Wang Guilin. Seeing that Wang Guilin was still about 70 or 80 meters away, Feng Guolong asked softly, "Sis, did you say yes?" Li Mingxin quietly pinched Feng Guolong's arm and let out a soft Feng Guolong was instantly overjoyed. When Wang Guilin drew near and saw him beaming like that, she immediately caught on and felt happy as well. The three of them didn't chat much. After asking about the situation, Wang Guilin turned on her flashlight and left with Li Mingxin. Before leaving, she discussed with Feng Guolong that once the bear gallbladder was sold, they would give Zhang Erbao a 20% cut as a finder's fee. After all, there are rules when hunting in the mountains. Whoever gives you a tip and helps you bag the game, you have to give them a share, let alone Zhang Erbao leading the black bear right here. After the two left, Feng Guolong threw the mugwort and wormwood he had just pulled into the blazing fire. The buzzing of mosquitoes was already ringing in his ears. Soon, wisps of smoke rose from the fire. Feng Guolong grabbed the wooden stick by the shack door, pulled it inside, and blocked the entrance. Then he lay down on the wooden planks inside the shack. Perhaps because he had exhausted himself earlier, he fell into a deep sleep not long after lying down. When Wang Guilin returned home, the yard was already full of people. Good heavens, nearly half the village was represented, strong men helping to unload the meat, and curious womenfolk. There were also a few kids who kept touching the bear hide that had already been stretched on a frame, poking and prodding it. Many hands make light work. The fat layer on the bear hide had already been scraped off. The bear meat was also divided. 4 bear paws were placed in a large wicker basket, and 4 bear legs were arranged in order on a long bench. The family's low table was set up in the center of the yard. On the table were dozens of pieces of bear meat, each about a jin, half a kilogram, in size. Seeing Wang Guilin return, a group of women immediately gathered around, chattering away. "You're back, Lon. How's your second child? Not hurt, are you?" "Yeah, that big black bear was no easy catch." "Is the kid okay?" "The child is yours. How can you be so domineering? Shouldn't I have known about such a big matter?" But don't underestimate a man's adaptability. Seeing that the major issue was settled, Feng Jianya immediately revealed a knowing smile, meaning that he had told him to say it. How could us men bring it up ourselves? He immediately took out a cigarette, handed one to Li Weigua, struck a match, and with one hand holding the match and the other shielding the flame, lit Li Weigua's cigarette. Li Weigua took a puff of the lit cigarette, gave Feng Jianya a slight nod, meaning, "Brother, don't worry, I've got this handled, it's done." Ignoring the two sitting on the ground, the old sisters went into the outer room kitchen. Wang Guilin took out a woven bag and put in 2 bear legs, a rack of bear ribs, and a few large chunks of bear meat. Lu Jinlan was puzzled. "Sister-in-law, shouldn't you soak this meat in cold water first? What are you doing?" Wang Guilin smiled and said, "This is for your family. The ones I kept won't last long either." Take these, bring some to your daughter's uncle, and give the rest to the people in your canteen. Lu Jinlan quickly grabbed Wang Guilan, who was about to put more bear meat into the bag, and said anxiously, "Don't, sister-in-law. What are you doing? Just take a little to eat, don't give it away." Wang Guilan pushed away Lu Jinlan's hand and said with emotion, "Sister-in-law, why are you being so formal? We've been like real sisters all these years, and now our children are about to be married. We're so fated to be together." Hearing Wang Guilan's words, Lu Jinlan was deeply touched. The two had indeed gotten along well over the years. In the early years when she wasn't working, they were together almost every day. Compared to the bond between the two of you, this little thing is nothing. "All right, sister-in-law, then I won't say thank you, as that would be too sentimental," Lu Jinlan said. "That's more like it, sister-in-law. We're like sisters anyway." Wang Guilan and the other woman busied themselves again. Li Weigua and Feng Jianya, who had just come out after finishing a cigarette, heard the two women talking and thought to themselves, "So you two are real sisters-in-law, while we are outsiders. We weren't even told about our children's important matters. You two just decided it directly." Wang Guilan handed the snakeskin bag to Li Weigua and said, "Brother, you carry this heavy one. Let my sister-in-law carry the basin of bear fat. Let the daughter render it tomorrow." This time, Lu Jinlan did not utter any words of refusal. When the four of them walked out of the house, Feng Guoxing was using pliers to break bare teeth. In fact, he had overheard most of the conversation inside and knew what was going on. Just as Feng Guoxing was about to go back to the west room to sleep, Wang Guilan said to him, "Come here, son, let's talk about something." The three of them went into the east room and sat on the calm. Wang Guilan began, "Son, take some meat to your uncle's place tomorrow and tell your little brother to come back. Stop fooling around there." As soon as he got on break, he couldn't even stay home a few days before running off. Feng Guolong's third brother, Feng Guoqing, had only stayed home a few days after summer break started before going to their uncle Wang Tiamin's house. Uncle Wang Taimin was a logging crew contractor for the forest farm. During the winter production season, the forest farm needed a lot of labor, but it couldn't afford to keep that many regular workers. So the forest farm set up logging yards in various cutting areas. These logging yards were then outsourced to contractors, who organized workers to fell trees and trim branches in the yard area, haul the timber back to the yard, and have it inspected and tallied by scalers. The forest farm paid based on the volume. Wang Taimin had contracted a logging yard a few years ago through Feng Jiamin's connections, and his family's finances had improved. Ever since Feng Guoqing started middle school, he had been living at his uncle's house. My uncle's younger son, Wang Zhongliang, is doing well in his studies. He got into the county high school last year, and now that it's summer break, I asked Feng Guoqing to go over and tutor him. Remembering his younger son, and thinking that his nephew Wang Zhongliang was also at home, he added, "Zhongliang is also home. Ask him if he wants to come. If he does, bring him along." Feng Guoqing nodded. "Okay, got it, Mom. After that, you go pick up Xiaoping and my eldest grandson, and also bring some meat for your in-laws," Wang Guilan added. Feng Guoqing was delighted at that. His wife and child had been away for a few days, and he did miss them, especially the kid, who at 4 years old was at that mischievous and clingy stage. "Okay, I'll go tomorrow morning." After a pause, Feng Guoqing added, "Mom, I was thinking, we have so much meat, I'd like to give some to our team leader, build some connections." Wang Guilan was pleased to hear her son was being practical. "Why not? Give him some bear meat, and also give him one of the hind paws," she replied happily. Then she slapped her thigh and said, "I just forgot to mention earlier. I should have given sister-in-law 2 bear paws. I'll deliver them tomorrow morning," Wang Guilan said regretfully. At that moment, Feng Jianya interrupted. "That's all small stuff. You should think about who to ask to be the matchmaker." Wang Guilan pondered and then tentatively asked, "How about old son's wife? We'll have to ask old son to pick an auspicious date anyway." Feng Jianya thought for a moment and replied, "That could work, but will Big Brother and his wife be okay with it?" The reason Feng Jianya said this was because Old Son and his wife were quite interesting characters. Old Son had a handed-down book at home. He used it to practice feng shui and conduct ceremonies for weddings and funerals. His wife, known as Old Son's wife in the Northeast, had once served as a spirit medium in a shrine and been a shamaness. Whenever Old Son discerned something amiss, he'd have his wife perform a ritual to break the bad luck. The couple worked together seamlessly and earned a great reputation. Life was good for them. But during those years when the political winds shifted, they suffered terribly. With the campaign to destroy the 4 olds, they were labeled as monsters and demons. Afraid of dragging their children down, they forced their kids to cut ties with them. They hadn't dared to contact him, and only after the political climate shifted did they dare to reach out. In recent years, no one has bothered much about this matter. Because Old Son had been so famous in the past, people gradually started coming to him again, selecting graves, building houses, and choosing auspicious days. Old Mrs. Son, however, no longer dared to practice fortune-telling and switched to being a matchmaker. This old couple was back in business as a team. Since Li Weiguo was the village chief, Feng Jianya said this. Wang Guilin thought for a moment and said, "Tomorrow I'll talk to my sister-in-law and see what she says. If not, we'll have Zhaoyang handle it. He knows both families well." That works too, Feng Jianya replied. By the way, Heir asked me to bring some bear meat to Zhang Erbao's family tomorrow and inform his parents that once the bear gallbladder is sold, they'll get a 20% cut. What do you think? Wang Guilin asked. Feng Jianya thought for a moment and asked Feng Guoxing, "Big brother, what do you think?" Feng Guoxing said, "I think Heir did the right thing. After all, Zhang Erbao didn't do it on purpose, and his family is really struggling." Feng Jianya nodded and said, "Let's do it that way. Our family isn't short of this money. We've been fellow villagers for so many years. If we can help, we should. Actually, even if we don't give the money for the bear gall to Zhang Erbao's family, no one can fault us." After all, Zhang Erbao didn't consult Feng Guolong before hunting the bear, and Feng Guolong even saved his life. Now Feng Guolong is giving Zhang Erbao a 20% share. That's over 100 yuan. Anyone who hears about this would surely give Feng Guolong a thumbs up. The three discussed, and then tidied up and went to sleep. Meanwhile, at the Li family home, Li Weiguo and his wife had returned and put the bear meat in cold water. Li Mingxin also came out to help. After they finished cleaning up, they all went into the east room. Old man Li was smoking his pipe on the Kong. Lu Jinlan spoke first. "Dad, I want to discuss something with you. Heir's mother mentioned today about Heir and Mingxin's matter. What do you think, old man?" Upon hearing this, Li Mingxin's face flushed red instantly. She lowered her head without speaking, twisting the hem of her clothes with her fingers. Old man Li looked at his granddaughter and understood the outcome. He said grumpily, "It's not me who's getting married. What's the use of asking me?" Then the whole family's gaze turned to Li Mingxin. Li Mingxin kept her head down, her face flushed red, still not speaking. Lu Jinlan knew her daughter's feelings and teased, "Girl, if you keep silent, it means you're unwilling. Then tomorrow I'll tell your aunt that you disagree." Li Mingxin panicked and immediately lifted her head, saying, "No." Seeing the three of them laughing, she realized she'd fallen into a trap. She quickly lowered her head again and stammered, I'll do as you say." Seeing her daughter's shy demeanor, Lu Jinlan stopped teasing her. "All right, then I'll go tell your aunt tomorrow morning." Saying that her second daughter-in-law has agreed. Old man Li and his son burst into laughter, and Li Mingxin lowered her head even further. Early the next morning, just as dawn was barely breaking, around 4 o'clock, Wang Guilin was already up. She first cooked a pot of fine corn grits porridge and set it to simmer on the stove. Then, around 4:30, she threaded a string of bear meat onto an iron wire. After a moment's thought, she added a few pieces of bear fat as well. It weighed about 7 or 8 caddies in total. Carrying it, she headed toward Zhang Erbao's house. Zhang Erbao's house was west of Feng Guolong's place, and she had to pass 7 or 8 households. In just a few minutes, Wang Guilin arrived at the gate of Zhang Erbao's yard. Zhang Erbao's mother was just coming back from the backyard carrying firewood, apparently about to start cooking. Wang Guilin called out toward the yard, "Erbao's mom, you're up?" Zhang Erbao's mother, seeing it was Wang Guilin, hurriedly put the firewood under the windowsill. She quickly walked to the wooden fence gate, opened it, and said to Wang Guilin, "Sister-in-law, you're here. Come on in. Last night, Erbao told me everything. That darn kid is always causing trouble. I was planning to go over to your place last night to apologize, but I felt too embarrassed, worried you might overthink things. I was just thinking I'd head over after making breakfast." Hearing this, Wang Guilin realized that Erbao's mother was reasonable, not the type to be difficult. So she comforted her, saying, "The kid is still young, don't be too hard on him. We're all neighbors here in the village, no need to take it to heart. Look, everything turned out fine. Neither of the kids got hurt, and they even took down a black bear." Zhang Erbao's mother quickly chimed in, Yes, it's thanks to your second son. Your second son is really amazing. If it weren't for him, my Erbao might have been trampled by that black bear." Wang Guilin's face showed modesty, but inwardly she was proud. "What's so amazing? Don't praise him too much." As she spoke, She handed the bear meat in her hand to Zhang Erbao's mother and added, "This is what my second son asked me to bring over. He also told me to let you know that after a while, when the bear gall is sold, your Erbao will get a 20% share." Zhang Erbao's mother quickly waved her hand and stepped back, saying anxiously, "Sister-in-law, I really can't accept this. How could we have the face to take this? If you don't blame us, I'd already be grateful. I absolutely can't take it." Wang Guilan, seeing that she wasn't just pretending, said to her, "Sister, you know, my father-in-law has his rules. Even though we didn't go into the mountains, the rules are still there. If you take it, there's no problem." But Zhang Erbao's mother didn't agree. "Sister-in-law, forget about the rules. I'm just thankful that both kids are fine." She refused very decisively. Wang Guilan was also a bit troubled that she couldn't give away the money and meat. Then, with a serious expression, she said to Zhang Erbao's mother, "Sister-in-law, you just don't understand. Hunters have their rules. If you don't accept, who else will tell heir about anything later on? What if our heir wants to go into the mountains to hunt something someday? Others can point him in the right direction, so he won't have to wander around the whole mountain for nothing." Wang Guilan's words were a bit harsh, implying, "Don't block my son's future path." In truth, she had no idea that Feng Guolong was planning to go into the mountains. If he had dared to bring it up, she would have beaten him to death. How dangerous it is to go into the mountains. He's about to get married. What's he showing off for? Then she softened her tone and said to Zhang Erbao's mother, "Besides, isn't this heir giving it to your Erbao? The two lads will have to get along in the future, right?" Hearing this, Zhang Erbao's mother was a bit conflicted. Indeed, the Feng family's standing in the village was much better than theirs. If the two young men got along well, it would be good for her son. She seemed to be wavering. Wang Guilan struck while the iron was hot and quickly stuffed the meat into Zhang Erbao's mother's hands, saying, "Sister, just take it. Once I sell the bear bile, I'll bring you the money. You can save it for Erbao to use later." Knowing that Wang Guilan and her son were looking out for them, Zhang Erbao's mother's eyes reddened slightly. Moved, she said, "Sister-in-law, I know you're taking care of our family. Thank you. From now on, if heir needs anything, just tell him to find Erbao. If he dares to say no, I'll break his legs." Let the two young men get along slowly. "Well, sister, I'll head back now. Don't worry about the bear bile money. It'll take about half a month to dry. If you ever need cash for anything, just come to me first." "I'll be going then," Wang Guilan said as she started to walk out. Zhang Erbao's mother quickly replied, "No rush, no rush. Sister, come visit whenever you have time." Go back and make breakfast now," Wang Guilan said as she got up to return home. After Wang Guilan left, Zhang Erbao's mother carried the bear meat into the house, found a basin to put it in, and then headed to the western room where Zhang Erbao was. Zhang Erbao had a rough night. He kept having nightmares and would howl in his sleep every so often. His parents were so worried they wanted to go find old Mrs. Sun, but it got better in the second half of the night, so the couple went back to sleep. At that moment, Zhang Erbao, who was sleeping soundly, was woken up by his mother and asked drowsily, "What's wrong, Mom?" Zhang Erbao's mother said to him, "Son, get up and wash your face. I'll prepare some food for you to eat soon. After you eat, you leave and go relieve your second brother early." Zhang Erbao was even more confused. "Mom, who is my second brother? Do you have another child out there?" His mother angrily slapped him on the head with a smack and said, "I told you not to talk nonsense. Feng Er, your second brother. You two are the same age, but his birthday is earlier." Only then did Zhang Erbao understand. He grunted in acknowledgement and quickly got up to put on his clothes. His mother then said, "Just now Aunt Feng came by and said she'd give you 20% of the bear gall. Their family is decent, so from now on, when you see them, say hello and pitch in if there's any work to do." Zhang Erbao replied, "Okay, got it, Mom." And then he got up to start tidying up.